Welcome back to New Hampshire Today, and now, as it is every Wednesday at this time for Jenn and Jenn, Jennifer Wells and Jennifer Coffey. It's a segment where they get into whatever they want to get into. It's provocative, thought-provoking stuff. I think it's a great segment. We won't say the name of the sponsor, but I understand you already have a sponsor we'll be announcing soon for this segment. That's tremendous. Congratulations to you, too.
Thank you. Good morning, Jen.
Good morning.
How are you, Jennifer?
I am doing wonderful this morning. How are you?
Good. 1 or 2 cups of coffee?
I'm on number 2.
Good girl.
I saw the tease for this segment today that Jennifer Wells did, and I think the subject is phenomenal, so I'm going to let Jen take that away, and it's a great discussion. Look forward to it. Open up the Auto Fair listener lines if you want to join Jen and Jen. 645-6161 or 877-313-TALK. That's 8255.
So, Jen, in the light of everything that's going on with the media, I wanted to focus today on the media portrayal of women, and specifically conservative versus liberal. Do you think the media's portrayal is accurate, and does it matter?
It does matter. It matters a great deal because it can be very hurtful and it can be very helpful depending upon how they're presented. And, after you brought this up to me, I thought about it. And if you think back, remember when Sarah Palin was running for office?
Yes.
It's not unusual to see any politician out there with their children, but people made cruel jokes about her
absolutely.
son. They accused her of using him as a political pawn, and you didn't hear that kind of thing coming from our side, or what I should say, my side, being a conservative. But things like that occur, and it's disgusting behavior by the media, and it really portrays us in a very bad light.
And I would agree with that. And oftentimes, I think that in the media, liberal women are shown as kind of like the caregivers of the world, while conservative women are shown as, only caregivers of their own, and they're selfish, and they're, all about themselves.
Well, I want you to continue on how the left side of this equation is viewed, but you brought up Sarah Palin. I think it's worse than what Jennifer Coffey just said. I think Sarah Palin, and I've always respected what she and her family have endured, I think she was massacred publicly.
Yes.
I think it went beyond just, some mean chatter. And I'm glad she's made a lot of money and said to heck with all of you, because she's been almost made to look like ineffective and not even intelligent. I'll tell you right now, as a former reporter, she was put under more scrutiny with like these gotcha questions. Geographic, like I'm sure, no one points out that when Barack Obama was a candidate, he didn't know how many states there were in this country, or his misspeaks, or Joe Biden. How many times has Vice President Joe Biden put his foot in his mouth with inaccurate, untrue statements, and yet it's okay. But I saw Jennifer Coffey with Sarah Palin. Some of the toughest interviews were from female members of the national media press, almost resenting her for being a conservative woman.
It's not just the guys, though. I mean, on MSNBC, you got like Ed Schultz, who referred to Laura Ingraham as a right wing, and I'm not going to repeat the word that he used. You have Bill Maher, who referred to Ian Coulter, and Ingraham said he only invited him on their show, so he could use him as his quote-unquote foil.
His what? His what?
His foil, he called them. And you have Colby King, who was a columnist, who referred to Michelle Bachmann as Barbie with bangs.
I was just going to say, do you remember that whole Michelle Bachmann, when the only thing, like when she was going for president, nobody wanted to ask her about the issues. They only wanted to ask her things about like her religion. Do you remember they made that like the whole thing? Every time they questioned her, it was always about her religion and how she wanted to submit to her husband and birth control craziness. Do you remember that?
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And you know what? And to be honest with you, we see that duplicated among a lot of groups. They tend to put women in a different place than they do men, and then they label them. And when you label people like that, you make certain assumptions even when they're false, and that gets betrayed out to the general public.
Right.
Well, why is it a threat? And why, as a conservative woman, you just asked me, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, is that her name, Jennifer? You just mentioned before our show today that Democratic folks who we have a good working relationship, the state party, want to know if I want to have her on sometime. Does anyone go after her for her liberalism because she's a she? I mean, why is it conservative women? The Bachmann example's legit. Everything you two have said, in my opinion, is right down the middle. No one can argue with it. And yet Sarah Palin, Bachmann, you go down the list, Laura Ingraham, they're a threat. They're a threat. Why? Why? Why the double? Why the double edge, or why the extra scrutiny, Jennifer?
I just think it's because the left, they don't really have issues to stand on. So what are they going to do? They're going to attack conservative women because, one, you said that they are a threat because they're smart. They don't want to talk about the things that they know that they're going to be shown up about, I guess, as far as issues are concerned.
Jennifer Coffey, you are a state representative, correct?
Yes.
You're very pronounced in your views. I've had the good fortune of knowing you, not a long time, say a few months, and you know your stuff. You have a family, you have a business. You're an EMT. I have the highest respect for that. Did you, because of your conservative views, did you run into anything in New Hampshire as a woman with pronounced views, whether it was on the Second Amendment or other issues? Have you taken ridicule yourself because of your gender on that, politically speaking?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you think back to the last session, one of the bills that went through the House floor, and Jenn and I were talking about this, was the bill that had to do with birth control. Mm-hmm. And the media took that and ran with that, and it was conservatives' war on women, and that's all that you heard about. And then I actually had a reporter get really angry with me because I stood up on the New Hampshire House floor and I said, why isn't the media talking about the fact that this bill includes male vasectomies?
I didn't know that.
You know what? So did most of the New Hampshire public didn't know that because the media can't make it a soundbite.
Right.
They can't make it a war on women, conservatives' war on women, if they tell you that the bill actually included vasectomies. And the last time I checked, women don't get those.
That's true.
Yeah, last time. Ann Coulter, I think she's an interesting story because I think she almost needs to handicap those she sits with because she's so sharp. She knows her stuff. I mean, anyone who tries to go after her, she will. You won't even see it coming.
Right.
And yet, look at the comments that have made about her because she's what, an attractive human being or something? I mean, come on. Mm-hmm. It's really condescending, and I'm just amazed though. You could think can we think of an example of a liberal woman in this country who's been kind of ridiculed to the level of Bachmann, Palin, or any of the ones you two are saying right now? Can we think of any?
I can't. Can you, Jen?
Jennifer? Can you?
I can't think of one off the top of my head, to be honest with you. But Jen, I remember when we were talking about this topic, you told me you really weren't really attracted to either party.
No. And, that's a good point because I feel that whoever has the best fiscally sound ideas that don't interfere with your personal life, then that's the person I'm most likely to vote for, regardless of party. And this past election cycle, when everything was all about birth control, was kind of offensive to me.
Yeah.
Because that seemed like a moot point to me, like a non-issue.
You've heard me talk a lot about Jennifer Wells, my wife, Patty. And my wife Patty loves politics, and she can speak politics with anyone. Mm-hmm. And I must say that that's not always popular in some settings when we're out socially.
Sure. Right.
And she said the same thing you just said about this last election cycle. They did it to Scott Brown in Massachusetts,
yep.
The orchestration of making him look like a Neanderthal. They did it to Ovid LaMontagne. I don't think Ovid, in all due respect, ran the most aggressive gubernatorial campaign here in New Hampshire and could have run better. But they got defined as these. It was all about women's reproductive rights when the economy stunk, right? Mm-hmm. Right?
Right.
I mean, the economy was supposed to be the issue.
You know what? I'm going to tell you, Jen, listening to what you said, I guess we're going to have to label you somehow. So you're going to have to fit into the conservative or maybe the libertarian.
I think quote unquote crazy.
I think your description
if you're telling me what you're saying, then you're either conservative or libertarian because you're attracted to fiscally sound and you don't want the government to interfere with your life. So
that's true.
There goes your label. I'm labeling you.
Let's take a break. I think it's provocative discussion. I think we should stick with it, but we have to check news, traffic, weather, sports. Back in a few. News Radio 610 96.7. You're listening to Jenn and Jenn. More of New Hampshire today, plus free Red Sox tickets in the next hour. Just go to our websites and catch the phrase of the day for Wednesday. Back in a few. Jennifer Coffey, Jennifer Wells. Provocative topic. Women today with political points of view who are outspoken with a conservative philosophy and a liberal philosophy. Why are they perceived and treated differently by not only media, Jenn and Jenn, welcome back, but I think in everyday friendly social discussion.
That's a good point.
I think it's prevalent that there's a difference in how someone's viewed if they have an outspoken point of view, depending on which side of the aisle you're on.
No, and that's a good point, Jack. And I think people tend to just focus on the fact that you say that you're a conservative woman. And Jen, going back to, the way the mainstream media treats conservative women, they don't talk about the good stuff that, women do, like teaching self-defense classes or learning how to keep themselves safer at home. Conservative women are caregivers, nurses, doctors, instructors, but we rarely hear about all of the volunteerism and good work that they do. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And you know what? It's interesting, too, because in this day and age, there's more and more women that are becoming aware of how important it is to learn how to keep themselves and their families safer, not only at home but in the streets. In America, it's pretty common to find a fire extinguisher in somebody's house. We kind of, take it for granted. We all pretty much have them, just in case. We hope we never need to use it, but if we have to use it, we've got it. Interestingly, I just did an interview recently with a British reporter, and we were talking about a different topic. We were actually talking about women and firearms-related issues, but she told me that the average Brit just doesn't keep a fire extinguisher in their home. Apparently, they think, it was kind of weird. To me, it was weird anyway. I mean, they said it was better to call for help and, just leave the house. And I'm thinking, well, wouldn't it be better to just stop it while you can still control it before it takes out your home or takes out your neighbor's house?
Right.
And, it's no wonder that people overseas don't seem to understand why we Americans tend to believe that individuals have a responsibility to look out after themselves and their family and their friends.
Yeah, it's because that's lost over there. That individual thing is lost over there. I also want to mention Jen's website because she has some training and some classes coming up. And Jennifer? Your website?
Yeah, actually, it's Jenn, JenCoffey.com, and feel free to explore. There's lots of great info on there. But under news and events, there is some upcoming classes going on as far as refuse to be a victim, to teach you skills about keeping yourself safe and your family safe at home and in the streets. So check out the dates.
I'm hoping, Jen and those are great. Those would be great forums to go to. I'm hoping, Jen, that the narrative, the facts, the common sense of the arguments of conservative versus liberalism is slowly going to start to shift, and people are going to see that this orchestrated national media taking what liberal groups say hook, line, and sinker, or what the message is boiled down from focus groups, whether it's on issues like they feel are going to hurt conservatives, whether it's talking about a woman's right to either not have an abortion or have an abortion, or the right to life, the right to self-defense. I'm hoping that this past week or so, some of the hypocrisy, the MSNBC kind of bias that is so blatant, I'm hoping that the narrative starts to shift and people start listening, like you said earlier, Jen Wells. What matters to you is a fiscally conservative message.
Absolutely.
And the most individual freedom to get it, more than anything else politically speaking. And that's a great simplification of what a political philosophy is. And I'm hoping the narrative changes, but I'm not sure it will, because I think there's an inherent bias on the left towards women in public life.
Right, and to that point...
Except for, I'm sorry, Hillary Clinton. She's the anointed one, right?
That is true. But I would say to that point that, stuff like that just doesn't bring out equality, and I don't think that it's someone else's responsibility to take care of my personal needs or, my medical conditions such as birth control. I don't think it's up to my employer to provide that for me. I think that's a personal responsibility. Jen, what do you think about that?
When we're talking about people that have medical conditions that need treatment, that should be included in medical plans. And for some women, some types of treatment are also used to prevent pregnancy. But when you're talking about things that are just for the sake of how you want to live your life, but I haven't heard a need for vasectomy for medical reasons. We talked about that earlier.
Right.
Then that should be up to the individual responsibility. That's kind of a good point.
Yeah,
what do you think we ought to do with that, Jen?
I think we should poll our listeners. So the question for our segment of the day, should women be focused on employers paying for private matters, or should they be focused on taking care of themselves? So everyone give us your opinion by logging on to our websites, wgiram.com or newsradio967.com, and I can put that question up.
I'm still baffled in this last go-around in which Democrats did better than Republicans or conservatives here in New Hampshire and nationally, right? President got reelected with an economy that he had no business getting reelected in. His policies aren't working, but they did a brilliant job of defining Mitt Romney as the rich, out-of-touch guy, right? And around the country in these races, they had this message. If you were a conservative running, you were going to strip women's rights on just about everything. And how did that
off the bus, off the cliff?
How did that narrative stick? How did it become that when we had an economy that stinks? It's growing even in New Hampshire 2.5%, not a 4% growth rate or higher. Our deficit. Why wasn't the deficit the number one issue? It's just amazing the subjectivity and the arbitrary nature of what people are told matters, like we're a bunch of dumb sheep.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see how our poll comes out.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Jennifer Coffey, JennCoffey.com. Tremendous stuff, as always. And when's the class coming up again, the date?
I don't have the date in front of me, but I would encourage viewers, our listeners, to go to the news and events section on my website, and the dates are listed there. And it's a little ways off, so you've got some time to think about it and to sign up and to learn some safety skills.
Great stuff. All right, thank you very much. And you know, if it's just a suggested future topic, I think the whole discussion of Hillary Rodham Clinton, and I bring her up I've had the good fortune of sitting with her, interviewing her, meeting her, talking with her. Extremely sharp, smart person.
She's a smart lady.
Smart person.
And nobody ever criticized her when she would stand with Chelsea, and you talked about how wonderful her daughter was. You know, and you put Sarah Palin out there with her infant son.
Yeah.
And not only was she criticized, but she was the subject of jokes.
Well, yes. what I was going to say is, had Michelle Bachmann been the Secretary of State appointed by a Republican president after Benghazi, do you think she would have been getting away with that kind of attitude of, what does it matter?
Absolutely
Hillary Clinton got a buy by the national media. All right, Jenn, thank you very much. It's a great segment. Heard Wednesdays. You'll have more. Thank you, Jennifer Coffey.
Thank you, Jenn.
Bye, guys.
Thank you very much. And when we come back, we'll tell you about the Internal Revenue Service, one of their top folks who's going to plead the fifth. She's not talking today. Is that an admission of guilt in this ongoing scandal in Washington? More about that. And what did the commissioners know? And what did the White House know? They apparently know a lot more than we thought they did. But does anyone care from the national media's point of view? I hope so. Back in a moment, News Radio 610 96.7.